Lando Norris put together a dominant display at the Singapore GP, winning the race by a whopping 21 seconds. However, the British driver couldn't fully capitalize, as Max Verstappen finished right behind him in second place. What's particularly concerning for the rest of the grid is that this was supposed to be Red Bull's most challenging track. Verstappen's strong finish signals an ominous warning for the rest of the season. So, the big question now is, can Lando Norris still win the title? Norris still has a very real shot at the championship, with some fans even saying that it's Lando's championship to lose. But Max Verstappen's P2 finish and Daniel Ricciardo snatching away the fastest lap from Lando in the final lap in Singapore complicates things. This was the track where Red Bull was supposed to be vulnerable, yet Verstappen managed to stay behind Norris, signaling that Red Bull's dominance may not be as easily disrupted as once thought. With 6 races left, even the most optimistic scenario for Norris seems to fall short of dethroning Verstappen. But let's dive into the numbers to see just how steep the challenge is. After Singapore, Max sits at the top of the championship with 331 points, while Lando is 52 points behind at 279, which means that Lando needs to get 9 more points than Max every weekend. 6 race wins at 25 points each would give Norris 150 points. Getting the fastest lap for each would give him 6 more points. And 3 sprint wins would add another 24 points. That gives Norris 180 points over the next 6 races, bringing his total to 459 points. Now, if Max Verstappen finishes second in all of those races, he'd collect 18 points per race, adding up to 108 points. And with P2 in the 3 sprints, he'd have 129 points in total from these final 6 rounds. That would give Max a season-ending total of 460 points. So, even if Norris wins every race and maximizes his points haul, he would lose the title by just 1 point. Yes, just 1 point, making this an excruciatingly close battle, even in a flawless scenario for the McLaren driver. And that's why Lando needs more than just victories. For him to take the title, he needs Max Verstappen to finish outside the podium places in at least a couple of races. And that's where Oscar Piastri and the rest of the grid come into play. Let's start with Piastri. The Australian has been in sublime form this season, and probably the most consistent driver since the European leg started. Norris will rely heavily on Piastri to slot into second place and bump Verstappen down the order in multiple races. For example, if Piastri had qualified better in Singapore, he could have held Max off and kept Norris in a stronger points position. If Piastri can perform at the highest level, the championship race becomes a lot more interesting. While Piastri is essential, Norris also needs help from elsewhere on the grid. Ferrari and Mercedes could be pivotal in deciding the outcome of this championship. In Singapore, Ferrari showed that they had strong pace, especially with Charles Leclerc, but they were undone by poor qualifying. Had Ferrari been able to lock out a better position on the grid, we might have seen Leclerc up at the front challenging for the win, or, at the very least, taking crucial points away from Verstappen. Ferrari's form has been inconsistent, but on certain tracks, especially at power-hungry circuits, they could play a massive role in cutting into Max's lead. Carlos Sainz, too, has shown flashes of brilliance. And if both Ferrari drivers can disrupt Verstappen's rhythm in the coming races, it could provide a lifeline for Norris. And then there's Mercedes. The Silver Arrows have been mediocre in the last few races. However, historically, they have been very strong in Austin and Brazil. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton will probably be contenders to beat Max here, which could make all the difference in the championship. Although McLaren and Lando are the fastest on the grid at the moment, their biggest challenge isn't even winning races, but the fact that Max doesn't have bad weekends. Over the past few seasons, Max has become the most consistent and dominant driver in the field. Whatever that Red Bull is capable of, Max will get the most out of it. He will not just give the title away to Lando, that's for sure. Expecting Verstappen to falter isn't a realistic strategy for Norris. Verstappen's relentlessness and laser-like focus mean that even if Red Bull has a subpar car at a given track, he is always there to pick up the pieces. And with Red Bull rumored to bring upgrades to Austin, it will be even more difficult for Lando to gain massive points on Max. To win the title, Lando will need to be as perfect as he possibly can. While 52 points in 6 races may seem daunting, anything is possible in Formula One. Let's not forget 2010, when Sebastian Vettel was 25 points off the top and 4th in the standings with 2 races left. Very few expected him to take the title home that year, but his perfection towards the end of that season saw him win a championship. Lando will need to do the same. He will need to win consistently in order to be the new world champion, whereas Max will need to get on the podium or even P2 consistently to retain his crown. A win or two from Max will seal it for him in my opinion, and a DNF for either driver will likely mean the end of their title chances. But what do you think? Can Norris pull off a miracle? Or is Verstappen destined to dominate once again? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest twists and turns in this thrilling season. And as always, thanks for watching.